This is Julian Deal. We're at the 2012 Medieval Academy meeting in St. Louis, and I'm talking to Kelly DeVries. Kelly DeVries is Professor of History at Loyola University in Baltimore and is currently the Mark Clark Visiting Professor at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. Kelly, I've known you as a medievalist for the past almost 30 years. I'm rather curious to know why you are a medievalist. Why did you become a medievalist?
It was because I lived in the Low Countries. It's because I lived in Belgium from 76 to 78. I had gone over there thinking that the United States was the place to be. Law, politics, and all of that was very, very important. And I got into Europe and realized how absolutely young the U.S. was and absolutely inconsequential some of the political decisions that Americans thought were so major were to the real world. And I think I did this all when I was sitting in the Count's Castle in Ghent. I've always wondered if that was why I became interested in the Middle Ages and also interested in military history, history of fortifications, history of military technologies, because of the marvelous artifacts, large artifacts, buildings and so forth, as well as smaller artifacts in Belgium.
It was Belgium, therefore, but I know that you were in Toronto, at least for some of that time. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, when I returned from my Belgian experience, I finished my undergraduate and went to graduate school at University of Toronto, Center for Medieval Studies, which at that time we believed, and still probably believe, is one of the finest institutions of studying the Middle Ages in a way that is not just studying history, but studying the interdisciplinarity of the medieval world. It wasn't just reading fuddy-duddy old chronicles or archives. You read literature to see how that applied to history. You looked at theology and looked at philosophy, see how that applied to history. In my case, military history. Looked at artifacts. How did that apply? Art and architecture.
You say artifacts. Are artifacts the focus of your work, or
they've not been the focus of my work. Artifacts. They are a delightful sub-vocation, I guess you'd call it. I became interested in the history of technology, mostly because of the mentorship of Bert Hall at the University of Toronto, and he introduced me to arms and armor in an academic study. And I went into looking at gunpowder weapons, became associated with other. My first book was on medieval military technology. I became associated with the Royal Armories, and today I'm a historical consultant for the Royal Armories. So arms and armor and then gunpowder weapons have become not the only thing that I work on or study, but one of the things that really informs me a lot about medieval military history.
Well, if it's not to be always to be gunpowder and artillery, where do you see your work going? What's going to be your next project?
Well, right now I'm involved in writing a kind of a popular, or more for a popular audience, history on Eastern warfare, or Eastern Mediterranean warfare, from Troy to Iraq. So kind of the longue durée, but picking a specific area somewhere between Egypt and Italy, east to the end to Turkey. And all the different history that's gone on there, military history that's gone on there since the very beginnings of our recordings of military affairs. And then writing with John France, we've been asked to write the textbook on medieval warfare for Cambridge. I, of course, will continue to bring out volumes of the bibliography. I think I'm getting one that's almost ready to deliver. Will be number 5 in the bibliographical series for the History of Warfare series at Brill.
You've been in this field now for more than 30 years. You've had a wide experience of military history. You're involved in all sorts of committees. You see it in various countries. What is it about military history that still excites, thrills, exhilarates you?
You know, I may have grayed studying medieval military history, but I still think the field is quite young. There are a lot of younger individuals who are coming in and recognize that warfare is, while maybe not determining society, is certainly a fundamental aspect of society at every level. Whether you want to study the tactics on a battlefield, a single battle, or siege tactics, or the campaign, or the political strategy and geostrategy of an empire. There's so many different facets. My students this year at the Citadel, all cadets, have become entranced by the caltrop, this little tiny weapon, this made of one piece of iron cut in a certain way that if you throw it down, one spike always sticks up and the other three anchor it to the ground, disabling any man or horse that would trample on it. We have these at the siege of Jericho. We have them in more modern conflicts in Afghanistan, and just recently one of these students sent me a videotape to show me that Mexican drug smugglers are using them to throw behind their car so that chasing police cars will destroy their tires. So my students have gotten interested, even though they work with or will be working with large arms systems. They've gotten very intrigued by a little piece of metal that can be thrown on the ground behind them.
Kelly DeVries, thank you very much for giving this interview.
Thanks.